Yeah, spin
Yeah,
that
it's all
wheel.
about the
Beep,
wheel.
beep, 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 beep. All right, cool. Head PE. Head PE.
Ooh,
Wow.
nice.
So you probably notice the theme here. These are really legacy acts, right? I mean, the youngest of these three bands is APC, which is 20 years old, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
All right, so we'll do a quick recap. So the albums we're talking about are what? Self-titled
Self-titled
from 97,
and
Broke
broke from
from
2000.
2000, and then Blackout
Blackout.
2003. All on Jive? All on Jive
I
Records?
think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Nate, you want to lead off?
Sure. Yeah. It's awesome you say legacy band because it's like Head PE is to some considered kind of like an underground metal, rap rock, punk rock, whatever you call it, band.
Conglomeration.
Yeah, but we're all big fans, and obviously for good reason. I mean, they kind of made their own sound in a lot of ways, and those first two albums are amazing. Especially, I think the first one is still my favorite. But yeah, this album is a roadblock in a lot of ways. I think mainly because it actually makes a lot of sense, actually in retrospect, because the first one's like super punk rock, funk rock, just out there underground rap rock. Broke is like polished, but it's pretty rough lyrically, and I mean I'm surprised it was ever even on the radio, to be honest. Those songs on there are just brutal lyrically. And then Blackout comes out. We're all like hardcore fans at this point, ready for another album that's either just super explicit or heavy or whatever. And can't help to notice that this one's just it's watered down, right? I'm trying to think of an easy way to say it. It's watered down, and maybe it's label pressure, like we're saying with the Green Day Nimrod album. It's just different. For me, reflecting on the album, it's like it just doesn't seem cohesive as a piece of work. Like the first half is something, the second half is like a different thing. There's songs on here that are kind of like left field, which is okay a lot of the times, but for this band, it's like, I mean, they were like an Ozfest band, right? So it's like you have like these other side, like a ballad type thing, which is great because Jared actually can somewhat sing on that song.
Well, the Meadow. Listen to the Meadow.
The Meadow and Broke, right, too. Yeah. But there's something about it that just seems watered down. Like it's just like it almost seems forced in a lot of ways.
Because it is. It's because it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
factually, that's exactly what it was.
They were told to be more radio friendly,
Oh shit.
and
Okay.
they did it. Either A, to satisfy a record deal, or B, to maybe play bigger venues, make more money. Like probably a little bit of both, right?
So Nate, I did a little bit of research before, and even on the Blackout Wikipedia for the album, MCUD basically said that the label forced production to force the more polished production to force a nu metal sound on them, and like even down to changing song structures. It's one of those things where
wow.
I get back. We always talk about Greg and like the Sugar Ray Fly thing. It's like it probably wasn't to that extent, but we always talk about context is key. 2003, I mean, Limp Bizkit's still big, right?
Yep.
So they're still the benchmark, and there's even reference to that in the wiki where it's like they were looked at as maybe becoming the next Limp Bizkit.
They didn't sound like Limp Bizkit, especially not on self-titled. Like there's just I think lyrically there's no comparison. I think there might be some sonic comparisons because of who's in the band, but lyrically I think go back and listen to Darky and tell me that's something Fred Durst would ever be able to pull off. No fucking way. Or Ken 2012, no fucking way.
No.
Those songs just fucking shred. Serpent Boy, but the list goes on for that first record. IFO, Hill, fuck man, it's just a great record. God. And then Broke is the more polished version of that, but it is definitely still has those themes like Waiting to Die and Bartender and Killing Time. They're heavier, and I think Surge is on that, right? Surge is on Killing Time or Feel Good. No, it's Feel Good. He's on.
And Morgan from Kitty.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more connected compared to Self-Titled where they were kind of making their way. And then this comes out, and Blackout's obviously the radio single, and the rest of it doesn't really. I like if you get to the end of the album, Carnival's really good, Revelations is really good. Those songs are cool. Those songs would fit on other Hed PE albums from before this. The rest of it is definitely, you guys need to sound this way. You guys need to put out records and songs that will get you played on the radio and get us all paid.
Where I think the Limp Bizkit comparison gets back to is like with Limp Bizkit, you have Nookie, you have break stuff, but then you have the ballads, right? Then you have what was the rearranged, right? So it's just almost a whole different band. Where like with Hed PE, you get the heavy songs, but then what was it, The Meadow off Broke. You know, they showed they could do that. So you almost, in a lot of ways, you could almost see this coming if you really paid attention to Broke.
Yeah, but I mean, on Broke, they were allowed to be a little more of themselves, whereas on this one, they were like,
based on everything I've
change
read.
that. Yeah. And then the album after this, Only in America, is like a complete spin in the face of that on a different label, I believe, too, right? Like they were done with Jive. And was it Sub Noise, maybe? I think they were on at that point. They've been on Sub Noise before. Yeah.
Koch. Is that what it is? Is that how you say it, Koch?
Maybe,
right.
yeah.
Koch,
And that album, I mean, lyrically has some troubling situations. But we listened to it a ton when it came out because I was 21 or 20 and didn't think of the world that way. Nothing I would ever, act upon, but definitely some listening to it in the basement, drinking Jack Daniels because I was 20, and that's what you did. We saw them on that tour, Nate, right? In Portland, they played the Station.
Yep.
Downstairs. Only time I've ever gotten a black eye at a show. It was during Waiting to Die. I absolutely cold cocked some kid, and he reached up to grab my shirt and punched me in the face in that tiny little sweaty pool hall. And I was like, and then I think after we were trying, me and our mutual buddy Mike, who is living in Florida now, he and I were running around near your apartment, Nate, trying to get in with our bottle of Jack Daniels at age 20, like a bunch of idiots. So the cops are driving by. We're like, oh, what do we do? Let's hide in the snow. Fucking stupid. We were stupid 20-year-olds.
Man, now so many points and so many assessments that just make sense. And it's sweet that we're older now. We can like kind of look at all this stuff in retrospect. Like they're on Jive Records, right? So Jive Records is, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, Hed PE. If you listen to Self-Titled and Broke, it's so left field from mainstream plastic bubblegum selling music that I'm still just completely just thrown off that they got signed by Jive out of all records.
Totally,
like, this would be like a road, right? This should have been like a Roadrunner band or something back in the day. So it doesn't really make any sense at all. The only thing that does make sense is what you were saying, Tuan, which is, ooh, this is a Limp Bizkit cash grab. Let's sign these guys because we might have the next Limp Bizkit, so we could be a literally Limp Bizkit went, I think, diamond, right? So it's like, go where the money's hot kind of thing. But in terms of like album pressure, I mean, Broke, I remember when they were touring for Broke, Hed PE, the closest they came was Boston, so major market, not secondary market, Portland, Maine. And the club they were playing was Axis. And I remember being on a school night and trying to peer pressure my buddy to drive us to the show because we didn't have a license at the time. In Spanish class, I was like, hey, let's go. We got to go to the show at the Axis. And he didn't want to go. I'm like, fuck. And then so you think about it with Blackout, they're playing the State Theater. So that's club to theater. So that album pressure does pay dividends for the band. It's like the label's like, hey, do this. Your advance goes up because now you're filling bigger rooms. So take it or leave it. Like this will work for you financially. And it sucks that that's the way it goes because it affects the music. But if it comes to monetary value for the band members, and if you think about it, like this is their career, for us, it's like listening pleasure. Like it doesn't affect us financially at all. It sucks that that's the way it plays out because had they just stayed true to Broke and Self-Titled, I mean, this might have been, not a roadblock, and it maybe would eventually graduate to playing theaters and maybe even arenas, who knows, or stadiums like Limp Bizkit, who knows? Like, I don't think so. If they had stayed true to the Broke and Self-Titled element, that's not necessarily like arena rock. It's supposed to be small because it's pretty explicit. I guess that's just the way it goes, especially in this time. I mean, 2003, you got to think about music industry was the stereotype then. It was, big money. This is how you do it. The formula was set in stone. And obviously that's all thrown for a loop now in 2020. We were talking about earlier with, the artist essentially owning their rights to whatever they want to do now. This is 2003, so you stick to the grid.
Yeah, and they I mean, I'm not sure if they would have ever gotten any bigger than they did at this point, or maybe right after Broke, because they came back on their own at a couple of different record labels that allowed them to do whatever they wanted. And they had some songs here and there that were good, but they never kind of hit those highs of Broke and or Self-Titled. So I think that, that young, vibrant, energetic, something to say, something to get off their chest, those first couple albums was going to happen then and not any other time for them.
It's interesting. Like while you guys were talking, I'm just trying to think of like the progression from album to album. So you have Self-Titled, which is definitely has punk roots. Like you can tell they grew up in that.
Yeah.
There's punk, there's metal, there's funk. It's kind of all over the place. Broke is more polished, but Ray from Dead Kennedys is featured on one of those songs in guitar. So like you can tell like that's not something that they just, hey, let's try to get this guy from Dead Kennedys on the song. Like they probably know him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of those things. So like
Yeah.
they still have that kind of punk ethos. Definitely more hip hop beats in some of the songs, right? In Broke.
Yep.
But Blackout, it loses any essence, the real essence of any of those. I feel like it's just, I don't know. Even the visuals, I don't like. What was it, an eyeball with like a?
Felt very polished, but also like let's be different, and like that's never good. Let's polish up something different. It just doesn't work. Be you.
No, it's a great way to put it. Let's polish something that can't really be polished for it to be real and genuine. It's like, yeah, you can't like make, Rancid play arenas and, sell t-shirts at Walmart. It's just not, it's not what it's supposed to be. And that's what I think this
But JCPenney, they're all about that. Selling those t-shirts.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now. So Suck It Up, used in EA Sports, Blackout, EA Sports, Getaway, EA Sports, NASCAR Thunder 2003. Like there was definitely like some contracts played into make this album because this is what we got lined up. So if you don't do this way, then this stuff goes away and then you don't get the royalties or you don't get the advance. And it sucks that it's this way. And it's cool that we can talk about it because we can look at it through this lens because otherwise we wouldn't know. But it shows in the music and it sucks because it hurts the music and it hurts the band and obviously hurts the legacy of the artist itself.
Yeah.
So
that's tough. That's a tough hang for them because they're like, oh man, we were made to do that so we could cash the check. At the same time, like they're cashing the check, so I can't really fault them for that. I'm not like mad about it, but you're right. It's like this. I want this to sound like the other stuff I like by you guys, with maybe a different tangent here and there, but not bent towards radio, so that you can make your money on Madden 2002 or whatever. You know what I mean?
But what is comforting is like if you read anything about this album,
they hate it.
They knew what it. You know what I mean? Like they tried to fight it. Like that was. I think Jared was just like, I pretty much got outvoted. You know what I mean? I got outvoted. Like we were in a deal, and they wanted us to go new metal, more polished.
Listen to the lyrics of Carnival. I think it's about this whole situation. Know your enemies while they're in the next room. Just
there you go.
Fucking with you, like. It's they're trying to mess with you while you fall asleep. Yeah, no, totally. And that's exactly what happened to what he wanted to do musically here.
One more thought on all this is like, and I say this all the time. I feel like we've talked about this on the podcast. At a pivotal point like this, no one wins because their core fan base doesn't win, and then it just wasn't. There were no like major singles for this for like the casual fan to be hooked on this. So no one wins, and then. That's why you see Only in America. Their intent was to make it as uncommercial as possible, is a quote that I read.
And it was.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then that's a default because then it's like too far left rather than too far right with the commercial thing. So it's like, you didn't stay in the middle, which is why you got big in the first place and why you built up this, organic fan base. Had you just, let's say you'd never, the weird thing is they signed with Jive. Like if they hadn't signed with Jive, this may have never happened, Maybe. But imagine if Blackout and Only in America had a baby. That album would have been badass. Yeah. I mean, I actually
would have got broke.
Looking at this,
you would have got broke, bro.
Would have gotten broke. Yeah, you're right. And you know what? Another album like that wouldn't have been terrible at that time. I would have liked it. We'd have been down. I mean, looking at the track list, like Crazy Life, that's a song off Broke. I feel like there's some songs that are kind of sprinkled in.
You are totally right. Crazy Life is very Broke-esque.
Might be a Broke B-side. There's some that are like written for this album, some that are literally like, who knows? I mean, I'm looking at the credits, it's all written by them, but I mean, yeah, I use air quotes, written by them. They were told to do this, do that, change this, change that. So like they wrote it, but okay, yeah, take that out, put this here. Like that. That's what they, get rid of all this. Yeah. Funny little side tangent. During this era, so this is 2003, we're all huge fans at this point. I'm collecting all nerdery and merchandise around this band at this time, at least leading up to this band album. And I remember going on eBay and looking for like Hed PE merchandise, or posters, whatever. And Jared, the singer for Hed PE, had a eBay listing for his crotch rocket or motorcycle.
Oh wow!
A Kawasaki Ninja or whatever, like motorcycle, and it was like him in the posting and whatever. I'm like, shit, like even with selling out to the label, he's still trying to sell his motorcycle to like get some extra cash. You know what I mean? So it's like it just
How much
that's
did
what I
he
mean.
really make, right?
Yeah, it just proves the point. Like, what are you really getting out of this? You're not really going up the scale that much. So
Nate just trailed off just a tiny bit because I'm showing a picture of my Hed PE ticket stub
yeah,
from this tour, April 26, 2003, signed by, I think, Jared,
Let me see.
and
I can make out the
Jared's the big
signatures.
one. The J is
Jared,
definitely Jared.
Yep, the other one's Wes Gear from
Wes,
the
right? Yeah.
guitarist. Yep.
From the State Theater on this tour.
Yep. I only know that because I studied autographs for so long. Like,
So I'm going to give the Patio Slave edge here, which is taking nerdery to the next level. It's also very telling. 3 founding members left right after this.
Yep.
In 03 and 04. Like, that's telling.
We're not doing this anymore, yeah.
Like, this is not what it was.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because Sonny Mayo, formerly from the band Snot, filled in
For like a
Wes.
year. Yeah.
Yep.
He filled in for Chad.
Oh, for Chad. Yep.
But yeah, that was and again, there's some songs. This was probably of the 3 Roadblock albums tonight that we talked about, the one we maybe like the least, but there's still some nostalgia there. There's still some songs I would come back to. I know I mentioned Carnival and Revelations towards the end of the record. I like a lot. Blackout's still a decent song. Suck It Up is funny to me, especially because when we saw that show, DJ Product 1969, who was still with him at the time, was just holding up this sign that said "Suck It Up," like running around the stage and shit at the show. So, oh yeah, right at they opened with it, and it was like, this is ridiculous, but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
You know, this tiny venue with maybe 1,000 people in it, and yeah, it was of a time for sure, and a lot of this was, and that's what you're gonna get from us here. We love to talk this shit, so that's probably a good spot to wrap, boys. I think, right?
Yeah. Unless Nate, you have any closing Blackout thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at one more thing, and it kind of goes along with what you're saying, Tuan, which is, just the fact that it's scattered. I mean, the studios that was recorded in the Machine Shop in Hoboken, New Jersey, Studio West in San Diego, Solo Studios in Hollywood, California, NRG Studios, which is actually a world-renowned studio in North Hollywood. So it looks like, just if you're going through that many studios, it sounds like you're just kind of like piecing shit together, and that's another reason why this album doesn't sound like it's supposed to be
work.
one full
Yep.
track list. Yeah, it's just kind of pieced together. Like, all right, this works. All right, fuck it. We got a deadline. We got to make it before we get fined. So we got to put this album out, or we lose our advance, kind of thing, which sucks. I mean, we're nerds. That's the only reason we can like piece this stuff together. But like, it makes sense why this is a roadblock, because of the album label pressure, band members, maybe, inner conflict, and it just makes sense, and it shows in the music. And it's clearly a roadblock after those first 2 albums. It's just like, oh,
It's not.
I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So it is what it is.